We got to kick it up. Good afternoon. Welcome back. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the live chat bar. This is your opportunity to ask any questions about the assignment. When we get about to 10 minutes in, I'm going to go ahead and start my lecture. Peyton, I have no idea what you just asked me. When is the... Well, what you talking about? Good afternoon. Any questions? Welcome to Mr. Canelo Live afternoon help session. What can I help you with? Hi, welcome to Mr. Canelo's afternoon help session. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask them. We're actually going to start a lecture here going back over what we did earlier today, make some clarifying statements. If you had any questions, we will start that momentarily. Hi, welcome. Any questions so far? All right. Good afternoon, Beryl. How are you, buddy? I need to go ahead and take attendance while I'm thinking about it, and then we'll get started. We got to kick it up a notch. Oh, wrong thing. I'm doing well, Daryl. Doing well. Let's see. Wow, we only got a few people have checked in, man. We're not doing well today. Have to wait on this one. Daryl, did you watch that video this morning that I posted? Have you done the formative yet? Let's see. Let's see. Barrel. Barrel. Where you at? Did I close it? I still closed it. You got it done? Awesome. How'd you do on it? What did you think it went? Hey, Faith, how are you? Let's see. Peloponnesian War. Oh, I'm going to assume it didn't go well by you putting those faces out. Let's see. I want to see. Class 1. Girl, did you answer any of them? Vero, it's only telling me you attempted one. So try to go back in and see if you can redo it because it's only telling me you attempted one question. And I know you did more than one question. Vero, go retake the test, the quiz. I see that you finished your quiz. Yeah, we need to go over this. It did not go well. Yeah, that's what we're about to do. We're about to go over it. I was giving it a couple more seconds to get more people on, and then we'll start. All right. That's not the PowerPoint I wanted to open. Let's see. I had it open earlier. What the heck's up with it? Oh, we'll do it that way. All right. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to pull it up and we're going to go over that. Okay. Document. No, it's not what I wanted. All right, guys, you ready? Here we go. We're just going to go back over the entire PowerPoint. And that way that can help you guys with your quiz. I got to figure out how to reassign it and get with Miss Wiedemann and figure that out later today. I used to know how to do it, and I can't figure it out anymore. Okay, here we go. So when we talk about the Peloponnesian War, we call it the war between the well and the elephant. That's because Sparta was very much like a elephant. It was a strong land army. All right, so very clearly we need to make that difference. Sparta is the elephant. Athens is the whale. Sparta's got a strong army, the best one on the land. Elephant's the biggest mammal on the land. All right, so we got to draw that connection. Sparta is an elephant. And then when we talk about the whale, we got to look and say, okay, the whale is the biggest water animal, right? It's the biggest animal in the water. So a whale is Athens. They had a massive navy, all right? So Athens is the whale, all right? So we need to take that, and that's the first distinction we need to make. Sparta, elephant, Athens, whale. Pretty simple stuff, all right? That's the very first thing. So when we refer to the War of the Peloponnesus War, we want to think about a war between an elephant and a whale. Now, is an elephant going to go into the water and fight a whale? Probably not. He's not going to do very well there, right? He's used to being on land. Is a whale going to come on land and fight an elephant? Probably not. He's used to being in the water. He does well in the water. So when these two sides fight each other, they're not going to do it on each other's favorite terrain. They're not going to do it where the other side has an advantage. They're going to do it where they have the advantage. They want to fight where they have an advantage and avoid fighting when they don't have an advantage. All right, it's a very strategic mindset there. I'm going to fight where I can win. I'm not going to fight where I can't win. So that's step number one. You need to know that difference. All right. Then we talk about the tensions. So what leads to this war between Athens and Sparta? What led to it? Anybody have an idea? Anybody have an idea? What led to it? Not lack of resources. They had resources, Faith. Remember, Athens has set up a trade route. Okay, they can get grain from anywhere in the Mediterranean. They have boats, they get around. That's how they move around. So resources really isn't it. What else could it be? What's been the problem between the Greek city states the whole time? The whole time we've studied them. Are they really friendly to each other or do they not really like each other that much? No, not really. The Persians are gone, right? They just beat the Persians. So that's not really causing the tension between the two sides. And I know what you're doing, Faith. Guys, the Greeks hate each other. They don't get along at all. All right. They really can't stand each other. They don't trust each other, especially Sparta and Athens. They really don't trust each other. They don't like how each other interfere in their business. Again, Greece isn't that big. So they're always, always, always getting into conflicts with one another. They don't like being near each other. And so they're constantly looking for opportunities to harass each other. Okay. Sparta and Athens are always looking for opportunities to get one over on the other person. All right. And typically it turns pretty violent. So that's where the tensions start rising. They really start rising when each side starts making groups. Originally, the Athenians set off to make a group to defend against Persia, right? Athens is afraid Persia is going to come back, so they form a league of states to come together to be allies so that they don't fight. Right? They're trying to make sure that Persians don't come back. If they don't come back, if they're afraid that the Athenians have a strong military. So originally, Athens sets off to make this strong military, to make those connections, to bring other people into line so that if the Persians ever show back up, Athens is ready for them. That's the whole purpose of the Delian League. All right. And this actually causes issues because Sparta's like, why are they getting so strong? Why do they need allies? Are they trying to take over the rest of Greece? Right? Sparta's suspicious. They hate Athens, number one, and now they're suspicious. So they're suspicious of each other. So now Sparta's like, well, I got to make my own league. I got to be just as strong because of Athens' attacks. I'm not ready for it. So Sparta builds up a league of their own, the Peloponnesus League. So you got one team right here and another team right here. This team was designed, the Delian League, they're designed to keep the Persians out. The Spartans are like, hey, we don't like that league's on the same land as us, so we're starting our own league, the Peloponnesus League, okay? We don't want to play on that team. We want our own team. So now you have two competing teams side by side, and they don't like each other. All right. Her name is Shire, but pay attention, guys. Try to make sure that you do well on that quiz. All right, this is all going on during the classical age of Greece. So at first, they're not really fighting. They just don't really trust each other, but they're not fighting over anything yet. And so we still see this explosion of classical culture in Greece. This is the age that Western civilization is born. So our law, our information, our philosophy, our economies all come from this time when we start seeing the Spartans and Athenians competing with each other, okay? This idea of science and math and arithmetic, they all come from this time period. While these tensions are rising between the states. All right, stop playing around, a normal lad. Thank you. The differences between the leagues. The Delian League had a large, well-trained navy. They were democratic in nature. They were opposed to monarchy, and the power of the Persian Empire. All right, so the Delian League very much is this whale, right? They are with Athens. They are predominantly Athens. And then we have the Peloponnesian League, which is an army, okay? It's the Spartans. It is a oligarchy. It's opposed to the democracy of the Delian League. So the Delian League is designed to stop the Persians. The Peloponnesian League is designed to stop the Delian League, all right? So they're competing. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense? All right. All right. So then we come to the boiling point. In 545 BC, the league's treasury was transferred to Athens. So the Delian League moved all of its money to Athens. Athens uses that money to build better fortifications. They built the long wall. If you go back and you look at the PowerPoint that I made earlier, that's still up there, the link to the video. The long wall is a wall that stretched from Athens all the way to their port at Paseris, and it circled back and came back on the other side. It created basically a road that you could walk down and you'd be protected from attack. All right. They were afraid that that wall gets built during the classical period. That wall's paid for by money from the Delian League, and it makes Athens a very strong city. And for the next 20 years, Athens used their power and their money to boss everybody else around the Delian League. They'd tell them what to do, when to do it. Basically, all the leadership for those city-states got stripped from their own hands and was controlled by the Athenians. All right. So they decided everything. Sparta looked at this as a direct reason that Athens wanted to create an empire and control all of Greece. So tensions are rising. All right. They're very much rising. And they finally reached a boiling point in 433 BC when Athens made a treaty with Corsica, which was an island, or was a city-state in Greece that had a very large navy. They made a treaty. Now, Sparta was looking to make them an ally. After losing them, Sparta realizes it doesn't have a chance when it comes to warfare on the ocean. And at this point, the war is going to really, really heat up. And this is where it really gets out of hand. So the Peloponnesian War, again, is best classified as a war between an elephant and a whale. All right. A war between an elephant and a whale. So these two sides are going to be competing against each other. They're going to be fighting against each other, and they're not going to give each other an advantage. The Spartans are going to attack during the summer. They're going to run up to Athens. They're going to burn a bunch of fields, cut down trees, destroy orchards, destroy small towns and villages. Athens is going to sail around the coast. They're going to attack the ports, the Spartan ports. They're going to blockade them so they can't get supplies from outside of Greece. And they're going to raid when they get the opportunity to raid. And this creates tension between the two sides. In fact, they start emitting atrocities like killing entire populations, men, women, children, killing everybody in villages. This is when it starts really happening in Greece. So it's a very tumultuous time, meaning it's a very dangerous time. People are very scared. This is how warfare is changing in Greece. It's not just, hey, it's men fighting out in an open field. That's changed. Now it's, we're going to fight and we are going to eradicate you. We're going to destroy you. Give up. Stop fighting us. All right. Athens would use its navy to sail around. They didn't want to engage in a battlefield. So there really weren't major battles out on the land, okay? There's very few major battles on the land. In fact, most battles were taken or carried out very in small scale. They weren't very massive battles. And if a battle did take place, it was most likely on the ocean. And even then, it was really going to be a draw, or you're not going to see very much happening on either side. They limited their warfare quite a bit to limit the major battles. All right. So then let's talk about the video I had you guys watch, Sparta versus Athens. It's a 6-minute long video. That video is very important because it breaks down why Athens loses the war. So Athens loses the war for a number of reasons. Number one, Athens experiences a massive plague. That plague was so deadly and so dangerous that some historians have suggested that 2/3 of Athens' population died during the plague. 2/3, guys. That is massive. That is it's 2 in every 3 people dying. All right. That is so much worse than anything we've ever experienced. Okay. That's so much worse than COVID. COVID doesn't hold a flame to what this plague did to the city of Athens. It literally wiped them out. So they lost thousands of people because of that. There was a small, cramped city. They didn't understand germs or bacteria. Everyone got sick and they were dying. All right. Very, very, very deadly disease. All right. That's number one. Athens really suffered from that. Number two, Athens sets out to invade Sicily. Now, Sicily, if you guys remember a map of the Mediterranean, Sicily is the little island underneath the boot. That is Italy. So if Italy looks like a boot, Sicily's little island that sits underneath it. All right. It's basically Italy is stepping on it. All right. Sicily has a lot of materials, specifically wood. So the Athenians said, hey, we're going to sail to Sicily. We're going to get that wood. We're going to come back and we're going to fight this town called Syracuse. Now, Syracuse is one of the best known cities in the ancient world. Syracuse developed Greek fire. They developed the claw machine that used to flip boats. It was quite an ingenious city. It is where some of the greatest scientists came from. All right, people like Archimedes. Archimedes was a native of Syracuse. So Athens goes to attack Syracuse. It takes them a few years, and they don't hear anything about it. None of the news comes back. 3 months after they sent reinforcements, a man returns to Athens, and he asks for a haircut. His hair was very long, and he explains the story of what happened. Athens lost pretty much their entire extra navy, their extra ships. They had about 300 when they started the war. They lost about 180 to 200 ships in one day, or in one 3 month span, all in Syracuse. They underestimated their enemy, and Syracuse crushed them. Killed thousands of soldiers, destroyed hundreds of ships. It was absolutely astonishing. So, this major loss, another major attributing factor. And then finally, they lost a major battle to the Greeks, two other things. The Spartans, taking an opportunity on a raid, attacked a silver mine and freed thousands of prisoners that were working at that silver mine. So Athens starts running out of money, and then finally they defeat Athens in a major naval battle. Now, Sparta, remember what I told you, Sparta's the elephant. They don't typically go into the water. What Sparta had done is they'd taken money and they'd taken money from the Persians. The Persians paid the Spartans so they could build a fleet. That fleet was able to beat the Athenians. And so the war ends with Athens surrendering to Sparta. All right, guys. So let's go over those 5 things again. Number 1, the plague. Number 2, Athens tries and fails to invade Italy. Number 3, they run out of money when their silver mine gets hit. Number 4, they lose a major battle against a Spartan fleet. All right. So there's those 4 things that you need to remember why Athens loses the war. All right. Those are the 4 major things. And one question on the quiz, did Athens was there a lot of battles? No, there were not. There were not lots of battles. Lots. I don't know what I put on the question. I may put lost. No, there was not a lot of battles at the war. Not a lot of major battles in the war. All right. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Okay, great question, Madison. So what brought the tension between the city-states? So pretty much, number one, we got to remember that the city-states in Greece don't like each other. They really don't like each other. And even though they speak the same language, have the same culture, have the same gods and goddesses, they don't like each other. And so When Athens creates a league of states to fight against the Persians, to prevent the Persians from invading, what they do is they actually create kind of their own empire. They make themselves very strong. And Sparta gets worried about that because, again, the Greeks don't like each other. Well, what's going to stop them from coming and attacking us? That's what the Spartans are asking. So, what they do in response is they build their own league to specifically stop the Delian League. Now, the Delian League was built specifically to stop the Persians. The Spartans didn't believe that, and so they set up their own league specifically to stop the Delian League. All right, it was a counter to that other side. So, kind of like the Cold War. We have nuclear weapons, so Russia builds nuclear weapons. They build a missile that can shoot a weapon very far. We build a missile so we can shoot a weapon very far. It turns into this asymmetric. You have this, we will have this. Okay. Can I retake the quiz? Yes, when I figure out how to reassign it. I don't know what the next project's going to be yet. I haven't figured it out yet. All right. Questions. Questions. My day's going well. Yes, Farrell, the answer that you'd be looking for is the formation of leagues. Farrell, were you able to get back on the quiz? Was it still open for you? Farrell, were you able to get back on that quiz? It's not open for you? How to make it open again. Let me check. Y'all hold on 1 second. You need to go back and listen. I don't remember saying a magic word. All right, guys, I just got off the phone with Miss Wiedemann, so now the quiz should be open for you. She was able to help me out. No, there was no magic word, guys. There was no magic word at all whatsoever. There was a magic word just to Faith to see if she could hear me. Other than that, there was no magic word. All right, really random question, but are you going to go see Dude Perfect when they come May 29th? I would love to. I just don't know how much tickets are. All right, so make sure that you guys check that out. I've reopened it, so now you can take it as many times as you need to until you get it right, but it's never going to tell you the answers. You got to come up with those on your own. All right. Make sense? Cool. All right. Questions, guys. What questions do we have? All right. Questions, guys. Questions. Don't understand number 5. What do you mean you don't understand number 5? I need you to tell me what events helped lead to the fall of Athens, or what helped them lose the war. And I gave that to you guys earlier in my lecture. So I'm actually going to leave this video up so you can go back and listen to it, because I definitely said it multiple times. So it's choose multiple. All right, you're going to pick up a few of those. Oh, my contact is playing with me. All right. All right, questions, guys. Questions away. That was my contact. It fell out. Questions, guys. Questions. Hello. Looking for questions. Then we'll get back to reading. Any questions? All right, seeing that there are none, we will pick back up where we left off. All right, so the dwarves are with Bilbo, and they are coming up with their plan with Bilbo and Gandalf, and they're at Bilbo's house, and they're coming up with a plan for how they're going to get the gold from the dragon's smile. All right. Also went on Gandalf. I forgot to mention that with this map went a key, a small and curious key. Here it is, he said and handed to Thorin, a key with a long barrel and intricate words made of silver. Keep it safe. Indeed I will, said Thorin, and he fastened it upon a fine chain that hung about his neck and under his jacket. Now things began to look more hopeful. This news alters them much for the better. So far we've had no clear idea what to do. We thought of going east as quiet and careful as we could as far as the Long Lake. After that, the trouble would begin. Long time before that, if I knew anything about the roads east, interrupted Gandalf. We might go from there, up along the river running, went on Thorin, taking no notice, and so on to the ruins of Dale, the old town in the valley there, under the shadow of the mountain. But none of us like the idea of the front gate. The river runs right out of it, through it, the great cliff in south of the mountain, and out of it comes the dragon. Too far, too often. Unless he has changed his habits. That would be no good, said the wizard. Not without a mighty warrior, even a hero. I tried to find one, but warriors are busy fighting one another in distant lands. In this neighborhood, heroes are scarce, so simply not to be found. Swords in these parts are mostly blunt, and axes are used for trees, and shields as cradles or dish covers. The dragons are comfortably far off, and therefore legendary. That is why I settled on burglary, especially when I remembered the existence of a side door. And here is our little Bilbo Baggins, the burglar, the chosen and the selected burglar. So now, let's go on and make some plans. Very well, said Thorin. Supposing the burglar expert gives us some ideas or suggestions. He turned with mock politeness to Bilbo. First, I should not like to know a bit more about things, he said, feeling all confused and a bit shaky inside, but so far still tookishly determined to go on with things. I mean about the gold and the dragon and all that, and how it got there, and who it belongs to, and so on and further. Bless me, said Furin, haven't you got a map? Didn't you hear our song? And haven't we been talking about all this for hours? All the same, I'd like to get all plain and clear. And he obstinately putting on his business manner, usually reserved for people who tried to borrow money off him, and doing his best to appear wise and prudent and professional, to live up to the Gandalf's recommendation. And I should like to know about the risk of out-of-pocket expenses, time required, and rumination, and so forth, by which he meant, what am I going to get out of it, and I'm not going to come back alive. Oh, very well, said Thorin. Long ago, in my grandfather's Thoros time, our family's driven out of the far north and came back with all the wealth and their tools to the mountain on the map. It had been discovered by my far ancestor, Theron the Old. But now they mined and tunneled and made bigger halls and greater workshops and additions. I believe they found a good deal of gold and a great many jewels too. Anyway, they grew insanely rich and famous, and my grandfather was king under the mountain again and treated with great reverence by the mortal men who lived to the south and were gradually spreading up the running river as far as the valley overshadowed by the mountain. They built the merry town of Dale there in those days. Kings used to send for our smiths and reward even the least skillful, mostly richly. Fathers would beg us to take their sons as apprentices and pay us handsomely, especially in food supplies, which we never bothered to grow to find for ourselves. Altogether, they were good days for us, and the poorest of us had money to spend, to lend, and to leisure to make beautiful things just for the fun of it, not to speak of the most marvelous and magical toys, the like of which is not to be found in the world nowadays. So my grandfather's halls became full of armor and jewels and carvings and cups, and the toy market of Dale was the wonder of the north. Undoubtedly, that is what brought the dragon. He is not letting me redo 4-2 quiz over Sparta and the Greco-Persian War. All right, let me see what I can do about that, Viral. Now that I know how to make sure that you can. Let me go in. I will redo that. All right, girl. You should be able to get in there and do it. Sound good? Okay. Get back there. We talk about dragons. And they guard their plunder as long as they live, which is practically forever unless they are killed, and never enjoy a brass ring of it. Indeed, they hardly know a good bit of work from a bad, although they usually have a good notion of the current market value, and they can't make a thing for themselves, not even mend a little loose scale of their armor. There were lots of dragons in the north in those days, and gold was probably getting scarce up there. With the dwarves flying south or getting killed, all the general waste and destruction that dragons make going from bad to worse. There was a most specially greedy, strong, and wicked worm called Smaug. One day he flew up into the air, came north, came south. The first we heard of it was a noise like a hurricane coming from the north, and the pine trees on the mountain creaking and cracking in the wind. Some of the dwarves who happened to be outside, I was the lucky one. I was one, luckily, a fine, adventurous lad in those days, always wandering about, and it saved my life that day. Well, from a good way off, we saw the dragon settle on our mountain in a spout of flame. Then he came down the slopes, and when he'd reached the woods, they all went up in fire. By that time, all the bells were ringing in Dell, and the warriors were arming. The dwarves rushed out on their great gate, but there was the dragon waiting for them. None escaped that way. The river rushed up into a stream, and fog flew up on Dale. And in the fog, the dragon came on them and destroyed most of the warriors. The usual unhappy story it was, only too common in those days. We moved back and crept in through the front gate and routed out all the halls and lanes and tunnels, alleys, cellars, mansions, and passages. After there were no dwarves left alive inside, took all their wealth for himself, probably, for that is the dragon's way. He has piled it all up in a great heap far inside and sleeps on it for a bed. Later, he used to crawl out of the great gate and come by night to Dale to carry away people, especially maidens, to eat, until Dale was ruined. And all the people dead or gone. What goes on there now, I don't know for certain, but I don't suppose anyone lives nearer to the mountain than the far edge of the long lake nowadays. The few of us that were well inside sat and wept in hiding and cursed Smaug, and there we unexpectedly joined my father and my grandfather with singed beards. They looked very grim, but they said very little. When I asked how they got away, they told me to hold my tongue and said that one day, in the proper time, I should know. Proper time, I should know. And he went away, and we've had to earn our livings as best we could up and down the lands, often sinking as low as blacksmith's work or even coal mining. But we had never forgotten our stolen treasure, and even now, when I will allow we have a good bit laid by and are not so badly off, here Thorin stroked the gold chain around his neck. We still mean to get it back and to bring that our course home, our curses home to Smaug. We can. I've often wondered about my father's and my grandfather's escape. I see now they may have had a private side door which only they knew about, but apparently they made a map. I should like to know how Gandalf got a hold of it, and why it did not come down to me, the rightful heir. I did not get hold of it, I was given it, said the wizard. Your grandfather, Thorin, was killed, you remember, in the mines of Moria by Azog the Goblin. Curse his name, yes, said Thorin. And Thorin, your father, went away the 21st of April, 100 years ago, that Thursday, and has never been seen since. True, true, said Thorin. Well, your father gave this to give to you, and I have chosen my own time and way for handing it over. You can hardly blame me, considering the trouble I had to find you. Your father could not remember his own name when he gave me the paper. He never told me yours. So on the whole, I think I ought to be praised and thanked. Here it is, and he handed the map to Thorin. I don't understand, said Thorin and Bilbo, but he would have liked to say the same. The explanation did not seem to explain. Your grandfather, the wizard slowly and grimly, gave the map to his son for safety because he went to the mines of Moria. Your father went away to try his luck with the map after your grandfather was killed, and lots of adventures of a most unpleasant sort he had, but he never got near the mountain. How he got out there, I don't know, but I found him a prisoner in the dungeons of the necromancer. Whatever you were doing there, asked Thorin with a shudder. And all the dwarves shivered. Never you mind. I was finding things out as usual. And a nasty, dangerous business it was. Even I, Gandalf, only just escaped. I tried to save your father, but it was too late. He was witless and wandering and had forgotten almost everything except the map and the key. We have long ago paid the goblins of Moria, said Thorin. We gave them a thought, to the necromancer. Don't be absurd. He is an enemy far beyond the powers of the dwarves put together. If they could all be collected again and from the four corners of the world, the one thing your father wished was for his son to read the map and use the key. The dragon and the mountain are more than big enough task for you. Hear, hear, said Bilbo, and actually said it out loud. Hear what? They all said, turning suddenly towards him, and he was flustered that he answered. Hear what I got to say. What's that? They asked. Well, I should say that you ought to go east and have a look around. After all, there is a side door, and the dragons must sleep sometimes, I suppose. If you sit on the doorstep long enough, I dare say you will think of something. And, well, don't you know, I think we've talked long enough for one night. If you see what I mean, what about bed and an early start and all that? I'll give you a good breakfast before you go. Before we go, I suppose you mean, said Thorin. Aren't you the burglar? And isn't sitting on the doorstep your job? Not to speak of getting inside the door, but I agree about bed and breakfast. I like 6 eggs with my ham when starting on a journey. Fried, not poached. And mind you, don't break them. After all, the others had ordered their breakfast without so much as a please, which annoyed Bilbo very much. They all got up. The hobbit had to find for them rooms to find for them, filled all the spare rooms, and made beds of chairs and sofas before he got them all stowed and went to his own little bed, very tired and not altogether happy. One thing he did not make his mind up about was to not bother to get up very early and cook everybody else's wretched breakfast. The tookishness was wearing off, and he was now quite so sure that he was going on any journey in the morning. As he lay in bed, he could hear Thorin still humming to himself in the best bedroom next to him. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten goal. Bilbo went to sleep with that in his ears, and it gave him very uncomfortable dreams. It was long after the break of day when he woke up. All right, so next time we pick up, we're going to start off with the chapter Roast Mutton, the dwarves, and Bilbo heading out on adventure. All right, guys, that is going to be it. Any more questions before I say goodbye? Hi, Andre. All right, guys, that is it for today. Hope you had a good time. I'll catch up with you later. See ya. Actually, I'll give you 20 more, 30 more seconds. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and taverns we must away. Goodbye. The break of day to find our long forgotten gold. Pine